Hello and welcome back to another wonderful edition of Mr. Marcus's Wonderful World of Math. Back by popular demand, let's start off with a little joke. What did the pickle say to the carrot? Nothing, silly! Pickles don't talk! Alright, so let's do some math. Here we go. Let's go to number 8. So on the Back to Basics Homework 3, we're doing number 8, problem number 8. All right. So the first thing I'm going to want to do if I'm asked to factor, which I believe I am, factor completely, I'm going to take a look at all three of these terms and say, hey, do they have a common factor that exists? Can we pull something out? Can I divide each of these three terms by something? Turns out we can. Turns out we can divide each of them by 3. So if I divide out a factor of 3, I'm actually going to move it down. Divide out that factor of 3, what am I left with? Well, if I divide 6x squared by 3, I should be left with a 2x squared. If I divide negative 33x by 3, I'm left with negative 11x. And if I divide 15 by 3, I'm left with positive 5. So now I'm tasked with factoring this guy. Well, I know that when I factor something, I should be left with the product of two binomials. I take a look at this guy and I say, well, how do I multiply to make 2x squared? I know that it's these two terms that multiply to make 2x squared. Turns out the only really way to do that is 2x and x. All right, so 2x and x. So then I take a look and I say, all right, well, how now do I multiply to make 5? What are all the ways that I can multiply to make 5? All right, so I know I need to multiply to make 5 and then need to add to make these negative 11x. That is the outside stuff. The outside stuff and the inside stuff have to add to make negative 11x's. So how to multiply to make 5? Well, ooh, Nelly. How do I multiply to make 5? Well, it's 5 and 1 or 1 and 5. So let's try just 5 and 1 first. Let's do that. Let's do 5 and 1. If I take the outside stuff, that's 2x. And the inside stuff, that's 5x. If I added those together, would I get 11 or negative 11 if I made them both negatives? No, I would get negative 7 if they were both negatives, which is easy enough to do. So I know it's not that one. Well, what if it's 1 and 5? This now makes 2x times 5. This now is 10x's. And 1 times x is 1x. If I add those together, yeah, I get 11. I want negative 11 though, so I want both of these to be negative. So how do I make this negative 1x? Well, put a negative there. How do I make this negative 10x? Put a negative here. Do a check. Do a little check. And say, does 2x times x make x squared? Yes. Does negative 1 times negative 5 make positive 5? Yes. Do the outsides negative 10x plus the insides negative 1x equal negative 11x? Absolutely. This is the factored form of our original trinomial. All right.